Imagine a shadow, not a small shadow, but a darkness 800 feet long. A silver monolith gliding silently over the towering skyscrapers of Manhattan. In May 1937, the LZ-129 Hindenburg was not just a machine. It was a soaring cathedral of engineering, the pride of a nation. It was built to dominate the heavens for decades to come, a testament to human ambition that seemed untouchable, unbreakable, and eternal. But the clock was already ticking. On May 6, 1937, this icon of the skies arrived at Lakehurst, New Jersey. The spectators below were cheering, unaware that they were witnessing a funeral. In just a few minutes, the Silver Titan would cease to exist. 32 seconds. That is all it took for the fire to erase years of work. 32 seconds to burn the entire era of the great airships to a pile of glowing ash. Forget the wild conspiracies. Forget the whispers of sabotage or secret bombs planted by enemies. The truth is far more clinical, far more terrifying. It is hidden within a chain of 3 fatal errors. A series of small, human decisions that slowly turned this floating luxury palace into a perfect, inescapable death trap. Today, we peel back the silver skin to see the failure index of a disaster that changed the world forever. Inside the Hindenburg, the passengers lived in a dream. It was the flying Titanic, but with one major difference. It was meant to be safer. They dined on fine porcelain at 5,000 feet. They listened to a grand piano made of lightweight aluminum. They relaxed in a lounge with massive windows, watching the Atlantic drift by below. They were the world's elite, wrapped in luxury, floating inside a giant balloon filled with the most explosive gas known to man. Captain Max Pruss was not just a pilot. He was an officer under immense pressure. The Hindenburg was 12 hours behind schedule, fighting against fierce Atlantic winds. In Berlin, the Nazi officials were watching the clock. Every minute of delay was a stain on the image of German technological supremacy. Pruss felt the weight of an entire regime on his shoulders. He pushed the engines. He pushed the crew. He refused to wait for the sky to clear. This brings us to error number 1, the hydrogen trap. It was a failure born from politics and stubbornness. The Hindenburg was originally built for helium. It is a stable, noble gas that simply cannot burn. But there was a wall in the way. At that time, 90% of the world's helium was controlled by the United States. And the Americans, fearing the rise of the Third Reich, locked the vaults. They refused to sell. The embargo left German engineers with a brutal choice. They could either cancel the most prestigious project in human history or use hydrogen. Hydrogen is lighter, giving the ship more lift, but it is incredibly volatile. It reacts to oxygen with a violent hunger. The Germans chose the risk. They believed they were smarter than physics. They believed their specialized cells could contain the beast. They were wrong. It was arrogance at its peak. By filling the ship with 7 million cubic feet of hydrogen, they created a flying bomb. It was like building the Titanic and filling its hull with gunpowder instead of coal. They trusted their German quality to keep the spark away. But the danger wasn't just in the gas. It was in the very fabric of the ship. They were flying a giant matchstick through the clouds, waiting for the right moment to ignite. They were walking on a tightrope over an abyss. Fast forward to 7 p.m. on the day of the crash. The air above Lakehurst is heavy and charged. Thunderstorms are circling the airfield like vultures waiting for prey. The ground crew below is nervous, looking up at the dark sky. Captain Pruss is pushing his engines to the limit to make up for lost time. The prestige of the Reich is on the line. He refuses to hover offshore and wait for the weather to clear. He makes a critical decision. He steers the massive Titan directly into the electrical storm environment. The air begins to hum around them. Literally, The atmosphere is supercharged with static electricity from the passing storm. Suddenly, St. Elmo's fire, a ghostly, flickering blue-violet light, starts to dance on the metal tips of the mooring mast and tail fins. The crew sees it. Incredibly, they think it's just a beautiful natural anomaly. In reality, it was a screaming warning from the atmosphere. Inside the hull, the invisible clock was ticking towards zero. This leads us to error number 2, the fatal maneuver. Captain Pruss needed to align the ship precisely with the wind for landing, but he was coming in too fast and from a difficult angle. Under immense pressure to land quickly, he ordered a series of sharp, aggressive S-turns. For a nimble airplane, this is routine. For a rigid airship the size of 3 football fields, it was an act of extreme structural violence. The aluminum frame groaned under the G-forces. Deep inside the tail section, near gas cell number 4, a high-tension steel bracing cable couldn't take the strain. It snapped. The sound was like a cannon shot, but the roar of the diesel engines drowned it out. The broken cable whipped through the interior dark space like a razor blade. It sliced open the side of the massive hydrogen gas cell. The trap was sprung. Hydrogen began to flood the narrow, dark spaces between the gas cells and the outer fabric skin. It was a silent, invisible invasion. Because hydrogen is odorless and colorless, the crew had no way of knowing that the rear of their ship was becoming an explosive chamber. Every second, more gas escaped from the ruptured cell number 4, mixing with the oxygen inside the hull to create a highly flammable cocktail, just waiting for a reason to ignite. On the bridge, Captain Pruss noticed something was wrong. The ship was becoming tail-heavy. The stern was sagging. He didn't suspect a leak. He thought it was just the weight of the rainwater on the fabric. To compensate, he ordered the crew to dump water ballast from the rear and even moved 6 crew members to the bow to act as human counterweights. He was trying to balance a scale, unaware that one side of that scale was already dripping with liquid fuel. This leads us to error number 3, the grounding. 7:25 p.m. The Hindenburg is hovering just 200 feet above the ground. The crew drops the heavy, hemp mooring lines. These ropes were soaked through by the recent rain. The moment those wet ropes touched the damp grass of the airfield, they acted as a lightning rod in reverse. They created a direct electrical path from the ship's massive aluminum frame straight into the earth. The ship was now grounded. But there was a problem. While the frame was now grounded, the outer fabric skin was not. It was covered in a specialized, insulating lacquer that held on to the massive static charge it had collected during the storm. This created a massive difference in electrical potential. Frame versus skin. Positive versus negative. In the tail section, where the hydrogen was thickest, a tiny, brilliant white spark jumped across the gap. It was the final, microscopic error. The trap was finally shut. It didn't explode in a single blast. It cremated. The fire moved at an impossible speed, 50 feet per second, fueled by pure hydrogen and the flammable lacquer of the skin. First, a dull orange glow blossomed in the tail. Then, a pillar of fire roared toward the darkening clouds. Passengers in the dining room felt a slight jolt, looked out the windows, and saw the world turning bright red. The Silver Titan was being eaten alive from the inside out. The tail hit the earth with a bone-shaking thud. The nose tilted up toward the heavens, becoming a 200-meter chimney of flame. This is where time stopped for the world. Journalist Herbert Morrison, watching from the ground, began to weep into his microphone. His voice broke as he uttered the words that would haunt history. It's bursting into flames. Oh, the humanity. He wasn't just reporting a crash. He was narrating the death of a dream. 32 seconds. That is all it took for the greatest airship ever built to become a smoking, twisted skeleton of aluminum. The era of the giants died that evening in Lakehurst. The public's trust was incinerated along with the hydrogen. People realized that no matter how much luxury you provide, you cannot negotiate with the laws of physics. The Hindenburg was a masterpiece of human effort, but it was also a monument to human error and political arrogance. When you analyze the failure index of the Hindenburg, you see a lesson written in ash. It teaches us that every disaster is a chain. Remove one link, the hydrogen, the turn, or the spark, and the ship survives. But history doesn't allow for if only. It only records what happened. This was the failure index. We look into the abyss of the past so we can build a safer future. Look at the mistakes, learn from them, and never look away.